The playoffs are right around the corner, and the New York Knicks are a top-seeded team in the Eastern Conference. With all of that in mind, it makes it easy to forget that the New York Knicks own all of their first-round picks moving forward. That means on draft night, they're absolutely going to be active. And they just recently got another first-round pick added to their asset pool, and that pick comes from the Dallas Mavericks. It's a 2024 first-round pick, and with it, it completes the Kristaps Porzingis trade from a few years ago. We're going to break down exactly what the Mavericks are going to give the New York Knicks and how this is going to help the Knicks and their moves that they're trying to make this offseason. All of this and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. The Knicks officially received that first-round pick from the Dallas Mavericks. It's about time. We were supposed to receive this first-round pick from Dallas last year. Unfortunately for the Knicks, Dallas chose to miss the play-in. They chose to not even give themselves a chance for the playoffs, and they chose to keep that pick and draft. That's good for them. But now, after last night, after Dallas clinched the playoff spot, the New York Knicks are officially going to receive that first-round pick that they were supposed to receive last year. Let's take a look at exactly what Bobby Marks says here as he breaks down the situation for New York and Dallas. According to ESPN's Bobby Marks, the final conditions from the January 31st, 2019 Kristaps Porzingis trade from the New York Knicks to Dallas has been met, with the Mavericks clinching a spot in the playoffs. Their 2024 first-round pick will now be sent to New York. So what does that mean for the Knicks? They have 2 first-round picks in this year's draft. And if we know the Knicks, if you've watched the Knicks over the last few years, especially under Leon Rose, then you know what I know. The New York Knicks are absolutely not going to draft 2 players in this year's draft. Honestly speaking, I would be surprised if the New York Knicks even drafted 1 player in this year's draft, and they have 2 picks in this year's draft. The reason I'm saying that is because all of the reports are suggesting that this offseason, the New York Knicks are likely going to make a major swing for a major trade for an all-star or a superstar level player. If that's the case, you're likely going to need picks, players, and contracts to make that move happen. The New York Knicks have all of those assets available. If they utilize one of those picks and they draft the player for their roster, that means they have 1 less asset to use in those trades. That's why, in my opinion, I don't think they're going to draft any player. I think they're going to utilize these picks and other players to make that all-star trade we've all been hoping and waiting for since Leon Rose took over. Who that player is going to be, that's the question mark, but that's what I believe the New York Knicks are going to do. Now, in my opinion, I think the New York Knicks should draft at least 1 player. And here's the reason why. We need a better bench. Now, we can go out there, we can look at free agents, we can do all of that. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Fortunately for the Knicks, all of their free agent signings, or at least most of them, have been home runs under Leon Rose because they have just looked phenomenal as they've been playing for the New York Knicks. Jalen Brunson and Dante DiVincenzo are 2 names that come to mind. But even though that's the case, drafting a player that you could potentially have come off your bench, you can groom that player and potentially make them a starter if they show out and turn into the player that they're supposed to be as a draft pick, then I think the New York Knicks are doing exactly what they need to do as a franchise. They're developing for the future by drafting, but they're also trying to win now by getting the players that they need to get immediately. And that's what you need to do for any franchise trying to compete and contend in the NBA today. The New York Knicks are doing that. They're set up in a way right now that they could be a contender in the NBA for years to come. Drafting well supports that. So I hope the New York Knicks draft. But as I said earlier, with the Knicks under Leon Rose, them drafting just doesn't occur as frequently as it used to. And that's because the New York Knicks are trying to build a winner, a contender in the NBA. And oftentimes when you do that, you have to make major trades. And when you make those major trades, the one thing that facilitates that is the first round picks. After that, it's the players. Then after that, it's the contract that meets all of the demands and that can help that trade actually happen. Drafting well helps you today and in the future. And if you're the New York Knicks and you're building a contender, you want to make sure you're drafting and you're drafting well, because that means your New York Knicks team is going to stay strong and active for years to come. That means it should be a good team for many, many, many years, even after you have to make the trades that you shouldn't make, but you know you need to make because it's time. That's what I'm saying for the New York Knicks. Right now, they're building themselves into a competitor and a legit contender in the NBA, and I love to see it. And before we can understand what the New York Knicks are going to do, maybe on draft night or even this offseason, we have to understand all of the assets the New York Knicks are working with right now. So let's take a look at that. The Knicks currently own all of their first-round picks for the next 7 years. Now, they own a first-round pick from Dallas in 2024. That means they have 2 2024 first-round picks. They also have protected first from Detroit, Washington, and Milwaukee. That Pistons first is a top 18 protected this year, top 13 protected next year, top 11 protected in 2026, and top 9 protected in 2027. Now, the Pistons pick is heavily protected. However, if the Pistons turn into a decent or a good team in the next few years, I can see that pick conveying in 2027. It all depends on the Pistons and how far they can go. Obviously, this season isn't encouraging. However, if they can build off of this horrible season and do better each and every year, in 2027, we may be talking about the Pistons and that pick conveying. Let's continue here. The Wizards first is a top 12 protected this year, a top 10 protected next year, and a top 8 protected in 2026. Milwaukee's first is a top 4 protected in 2025. And all second-round picks are available from the New York Knicks. The Knicks also have draft rights to several overseas players, one of those players being warchest Jokic. If you haven't checked out the video we did about him, go to the channel right now and make sure you check out that video. Shout out to the account New York Basketball on the app X for giving us that information as well, too. As we can clearly see, the New York Knicks are stacked. They are loaded. They have all of the assets necessary right now to make that all-star trade happen for any player you're thinking about. If you want the New York Knicks to get Devin Booker, let's say he becomes disgruntled and he becomes available, the Knicks actually have the assets to make that trade happen. Now, will they likely have to give up all of these assets in order to get Devin Booker? Probably, but we're talking about Devin Booker potentially. If he's in the backcourt with Jalen Brunson, that is box office. It's nearly unstoppable, and I don't know what opposing defenses are going to do against that backcourt. They're probably going to struggle and cry each and every night because there's no way you're stopping that duo. And then apart from Devin Booker, you obviously have other players that we've talked about here on this channel, like Donovan Mitchell. Maybe he becomes disgruntled this offseason if the Cavaliers don't do what they need to do come this postseason. He could potentially be a player the New York Knicks are looking to trade for. And if that's the case again, they have the assets that the Cavs likely want in order to get that deal done. Having first-round picks, it's like having gold in this league because when you have them, no trade is off the table. That means you can facilitate and make sure you can do any trade that's offered to you if you want to do it. But besides the first-round picks, you also need players. You need players making a certain amount of money so they can match contracts and help facilitate that trade. The New York Knicks have that exact player on their roster right now. It's Bojan Bogdanovic. With Bojan, he has right now a partially guaranteed contract. It's likely that the New York Knicks are going to pick up that contract and make it guaranteed. Once they do that, the Knicks are going to have the ability to use that contract in a deal for a trade this offseason. They also have Alec Burks and a number of other players that they can use to help facilitate a trade with any team if a star becomes available that they covet and want. This might be the first time I'm ever saying this in my entire life as being a Knicks fan on this planet. The Knicks are in the driver's seat right now in terms of assets, picks, and players that they want to get on this roster. More than that, the Knicks are building New York into an attractive destination for other would-be stars. So when the Knicks are doing that, they have the players on their roster that other stars would be attracted to play with, like Jalen Brunson, like Dante DiVincenzo, like Julius Randle. When you have that type of situation happening and you have all of the assets available to make a superstar trade happen, you put yourself in a position that not many teams in the NBA find themselves in. you put yourself in a position where you're a legit contender this year and for years to come if you make no changes. And if you make that trade, the trade that you absolutely need to make, and it's for the right player, you solidify yourself as a top team in the NBA, a contender in the NBA for years to come. That's what the New York Knicks have at their fingertips right now. And all they need to do is draft right and make the right trades. Under Leon Rose, especially this year, they've been doing that. In terms of drafting, I have to wait and see. But hopefully, the Knicks will use some assets to make that superstar trade happen this offseason and use one of their first-round picks from this year to draft a player that can help our bench get stronger. If the Knicks do all of that this offseason, it'll be another win for Leon Rose and the Knicks, and it will help this Knicks team become better each and every year moving forward. And that's exactly what I want to see. I don't want to see prosperity for 1 year. I want to see it extended each and every year, year after year after year. And right now, under Leon Rose, that's exactly what the New York Knicks are building. But what about you guys? What do you think about the New York Knicks officially getting the Dallas Mavericks picks that they were due last year, but now they're getting it this year? Let me know in the comments below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.